Well, hello, Jake. How are you today?
Oh, good. Well, I guess to start it off, I should go ahead and say welcome to the Talking Heads podcast.
Ooh, Talking Heads podcast.
Oh, that's right. I never even told you that. Look at us. We're so collaborative. Basically, my name is Jake, and this is my buddy Graham.
Hello, my name is Graham.
We've known each other for about since 2014, so seven-ish years.
Almost 7 years.
So with that being said, some of our friends are moving off soon,
and we don't want to.
Yeah, in an effort to stay connected, we're going to kind of get together and do this podcast. This podcast is basically going to be, a mixture of comedy, seriousness, things like that. We're both
things that interest us.
Yeah, we're both going to bring a topic to the table each week. He's going to bring one, I'm going to bring one. We're going to get together and just kind of talk about it. And I guess to start us off, my topic is organized religion.
Ooh, that's my favorite one.
So, just first off, general thoughts on organized religion. Catholicism, Christianity, all basic religions that people follow.
I understand organized religion, however, I don't think it is the wisest decision to make in regards to personal philosophy.
Right. One should always keep their mind open and branch out to discover more.
Yeah, and I don't really appreciate. Well, I'm not going to say appreciate. I don't.
See, the way I can put it is I can understand organized religion for what it is and the reason people want to have faith, right? The ability to explain the unexplainable, the ability to say, a loved one has died, but it's okay because it's God's
Because they're
plan.
going to a new place.
Yeah, they're going to a better place, and so on and so forth. And for people who find solace in that, that's great. But I'm going to raise the point of what about the people that don't get that feeling? And what I mean by that is, so basically for me, I've grown up around here my whole life, and the way I can describe it is like if other people live in the Bible Belt, I can describe where I live as like the Bible Belt buckle, right? There's a lot of religious people here, and it's crazy to me.
There's like 4 churches on this campus?
Yeah, 4 churches alone, and it's one of those things to where like growing up, when it came to religion, I never felt like safe and warm in like God's embrace or something, right? Like other people go to church and they're like, I've been saved and I see the light and everything's great. I never got that because my sermons were always based around, if you do something bad, you're going to go to hell. If you do this, you're going to go to hell and spend eternity in fire, and that's just gonna suck for you, right? And even so, like in my small town and community, there are even billboards and stuff that I can remember looking at and being like, this scares me, right? Like there's one billboard that says, where will you spend eternity, heaven or hell? Read John 3:16. And I'm like, that is a very bold question you're asking me just to kind of reevaluate my life, look at it and be like, and it's right next to a church. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense.
This feels like a plot.
Yeah, see, it's like they're using religion as a weapon to kind of like take a knife, stab it in you, and be like, "Ha, I got you." Like it's weird to me.
You see, my problem with it is I appreciate the idea of individuality, and I don't have a problem with people who are religious or who follow these larger religions, but what bothers me is when they don't think about what they believe.
Right.
Like my dad, who I seem to remember as him calling himself an atheist his whole life. But we recently talked about it again. He said he's agnostic, so I'm not sure now. But like he was really, really put off by God, because his parents, my grandparents, were very, very staunch and strict Christians, and my dad just didn't agree with it. And he used to question my grandfather about his beliefs, and he would just get pissed off. He didn't know how to question like what he believed because
That's
he
that's
thought
just
he
the
would go
way
to
it
hell.
was.
Yeah, that was the way it was. Like, this is the way. And that's really unhealthy.
Well, see, it's funny to me that you mentioned that, because I personally believe that, like, organized religion is, and I don't mean this in a very negative way towards religion of any kind, but, like, it's kind of on the downturn, if that makes sense. Like, whenever I see people our age or younger, I see them doing something more what can be referred to as, like, spirituality, and they tend to just kind of do these things that are like, for example, there's a big witch movement and people studying old Wiccan practices and things like that.
You mentioned that. I've been looking that up recently.
Yeah, see, like, and it's things that people just get interested in. There are people that, there's one guy that I know of that I follow on Instagram that's, like, really big into Nordic runes, and he tells it kind of the same way as, like, tarot cards, but does it with Nordic runes. And it's like, if people are into that, great. Find something you're into, and if it gives you faith and comfort in your day-to-day life, awesome. Use that and be a part of it and study it more and really embrace it. But, like, the second that people start using it,
to not let it become you, though.
Exactly. It's the same thing as looking at someone who, like, their personality is one thing and one thing only. Like, if somebody's personality was only a band and only that band, that person is so boring. Oh my god, that person is so boring and unbearable.
Like a Star Wars fan who only talks about Star Wars.
Or, like, yeah, exactly. Or, like, someone that just, like, you say, oh man, that's a really cool at, and they're like, it's called an AT, and get really pissed off and defensive about, just, like, let somebody enjoy the fucking movie.
But, yeah, I don't know. I think, back when I was a kid, I remember going to Sunday school. And, I remember going to one session of Sunday school, and I remember going to, like, actual, like, church, and, like, sitting in, like, a big pew, and like eating the, like, free food and shit.
The best part of Sunday school, obviously.
Ooh, yes, a cracker, yes, give me. But I never really knew why I was there.
Right?
And, like,
you just got dragged along, and you were like, okay, I'm in nice clothes with other nice clothed people.
And the funny thing is, I don't think my parents really believed in it either, because we stopped going when I was about 4 years old.
Right. Well, see, growing up where I did, it's really weird because, like, as I said, Bible belt buckle, there are, like, I want to say a max of, like, almost 10 churches in my town. Some are Catholic.
More churches than restaurants.
Yeah, they're like some are Catholic, some are Baptist, some are just called Christian. We have a Seventh-day Adventist church. And, like, it's funny to me because there was a point in time I remember where a kid asked me if I was Catholic, right? And I asked my parents what that meant and if we were Catholic, and they said no. Upon telling this kid that I am not Catholic, his parents didn't let him hang out with me because I wasn't Catholic.
What is this, 1942?
Right, and I was like, that's so weird to me that it's based on religion and the fact that I worship God in a different way. And I remember going to a Catholic church when my grandfather died. And my whole life I had kind of only been to, like, a Christian church. And all of a sudden I'm sitting down in a Catholic church and the preacher is like, God be with you. And the whole entire church lights up with, and also with you. 8-year-old me is shocked.
That's bizarre.
8-year-old me is shocked.
What is this, a cult?
Right, 8-year-old me is shocked because I'm sitting there and it's like, where in my whole life I have never talked to the preacher during his sermon. And then there are these phrases where, like, they say something and then the crowd says something back to the preacher, which is, like, part of your religion. That's awesome. But at the same time, it was so funny to me because as an 8-year-old, I'm completely shell-shocked. I have no idea what's going on, and all these people are just, like, yelling at this preacher. And I'm like, where I come from, you don't speak until the sermon is completely done.
You'll feel the wrath of God if you open your mouth.
Right, exactly. And it was just so funny to me. And it's like, nobody ever explained these things to me as a kid. And I think that's where my whole thing with religion kind of started, was the fact that it was just like, I was told one thing and that one thing was it and nothing more. It was like, there is God, there is Jesus, there is the Virgin Mary, there is the whole story with the 3 wise men, that is it. But then there are different, I guess you could call them sects of Christianity, really, and Catholicism that practice it in a different way. And it's confusing to me because
The fact that there are so many varying versions of Christianity really baffles me, and that they can be like infighting with each other over the correct version of Christianity. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Like if.
And it's one of those things to where like that's why I kind of see it as like the generation, our generation and the generations after us are kind of looking at religion and being like, I'm questioning this and I'm being told not to question it, which is making me question it more. And then they just kind of fall off with regular organized religion and go find their own thing. Like the people who start studying, Wiccan traditions and witchcraft and things like that. Which, like, to those people, 100%, that's the coolest shit ever. I have no idea how it works.
Potentially dangerous.
See, I didn't know that. I know that sometimes fire is involved, and sometimes, like, it has to do a lot with, like, herbs and things like that, and, having a connection to the earth, which is great. But,
everybody should have that.
Yeah, for real. But it's just one of those things to where it's really cool to me whenever I meet someone who says, I am this, rather than saying that they're a Christian, because then I have something more to talk about with them. And not only that, it's one of those things to where, like, I guess you could say that, like, I'm kind of tired of Christians and Baptists and Catholics simply because I've grown up around them my whole life, and it's kind of, I've heard the same things over and over. And, like, hearing about someone else's tradition because of their religion is pretty cool. Like, I remember one of our friends started, instead of celebrating Christmas, she started celebrating something else. I'll have to ask her exactly what that was, and we can discuss that later. But instead of giving gifts and everything, you put what you want to do for the next year in a box, right? You take your task. It's kind of like a New Year's resolution thing. You take those things that you want to do over the next year and you put them in a box and you lock it away. And you do those things over the course of the next year, but if you don't complete some of them, it's okay. And then the ones you complete, you take out on New Year's again of that next year, and you burn them in kind of a symbol, in kind of like a symbolic way of being like, I have completed my
goals, and then try to finish your old ones.
Yeah.
That's an interesting concept.
Yeah, I thought the same thing, and I was like, that's really cool that instead of celebrating like Christmas and New Year's, that's what you guys are doing instead. I like
it's a lot more symbolic. It's kind of like you getting on yourself. Like, hey, you got a box full of shit that you didn't do this year. Like, you can't burn anything. Sorry.
Oh, God, I couldn't do it, man. Because I procrastinate with everything.
I'll burn this box next year.
I'll burn this box when I get to it.
But, so let me ask you, what do you think about teaching religion in schools?
I don't see any problem with it as long as, like, okay, so for me, I remember I took a class in high school, and it was world religions, and everybody got really upset that we spent one day on Christianity, but like 12 days on Islam.
I mean, it kind of makes sense. People in America are more likely to be more versed in Christianity than...
Right, because even it's engraved in you even as a kid with our traditions, because like...
Even in like cinema and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, it's really funny to me that it was like, no, we can't learn about this, we have to learn about our religion. And, I mean, I don't mind the idea of teaching religion in schools.
I think it's actually really important.
Right, so that way you can learn about different cultures and different ideals. But at the same time, you shouldn't force any kid to read about just one specific religion.
No, and you most certainly shouldn't force that religion upon them either.
Unless it's something like you're going to college and you're becoming a history major specifically in studies of, Islam or Christianity, then of course you have to learn nothing but that religion. That makes sense. But in the idea of like high schools and middle schools and things, like give them a world religions class and teach them the different traditions that people do.
Yeah, it makes people more well-rounded. It gives them the chance to really like present them new ideas and like give them new inspirations to come up with their own.
I remember whenever there was a point in time where I was having a really hard time during high school, and I realized that like it would be really nice to have that kind of faith to turn to, something to help ease my mind and my stress of, whatever a stupid ass high schooler goes through.
Mm-hmm.
But it was one of those things to where, again, I didn't feel like comfort and warm in God's embrace. I didn't feel like it was God's plan or God testing me. If anything, I felt like I was God's plaything and he was just flicking me around. So then I looked into other religions and what they offered, and then that's how I found Buddhism and the idea of mindfulness and meditation.
Yeah, that's
and then
funny.
I adapted that
That's
into my life.
almost exactly how I started getting into it.
Right.
I actually started reading the Bible because I liked a girl who was a Christian, so I started reading the Bible to try to understand her more. And man, I didn't even get through Genesis. I barely read any of it. And
you got to the 6th day and you were like, "Oh, this is so boring."
Yeah, kind of, yeah. And I just stopped and I started doing more research on various religions. Looking into Islam and Buddhism and even Satanism and shit. That was.
It's.
What's up, Beth?
It's funny to me that you mentioned that because Islam is really an intense religion that I think doesn't really get enough.
And funny enough, it's got a lot of similarities to Christianity too.
I mean, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Considering both are pretty much the same thing in origin.
No, you're fine. We're making a podcast.
Are you? What are you talking about?
Basically anything that comes to mind.
Yeah, right now we're talking about organized religion.
Yeah, right? Right? See, that's the reaction it gets.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this just real quick, and if you don't mind, this can't go into the podcast. What is your, quote, religion, so to speak?
I grew up in the Episcopal church.
Right.
It's a branch of Christianity, but I definitely don't I don't know. I feel like
you don't
more
vibe
a
with it.
spiritual person than a religious person, because it's kind of fucking culty to me.
Yeah, we were saying that a lot of people our age nowadays are a lot more.
Our age and the generations younger are more open to a spirituality movement rather than going to a church.
Yeah, well, the thing about the Bible, it was revised by King Arthur and King, what's his fucking name? Y'all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And
King
so
James.
so you're just man, what the fuck? There's a bunch of shit in there that just doesn't sit right,
Right.
It doesn't feel right.
But yeah, I don't know. I think. Shit, what were we talking about? We're talking about. I was talking about
how you were researching other religions and things.
Yeah,
and then I got into the
researching
fact
stuff
that
and,
Islam is.
Yeah, and I started
really
getting
extensive.
into philosophy and shit.
Right.
And that's really what inspired trying to become more, I guess, spiritual.
Right.
Or I guess that's where I found the most stuff that made sense to me.
Right. And instead of this you go to church, you're a good person, you get saved by God's embrace.
Mm-hmm.
You found more solace in the idea of mindfulness. I have to be mindful of myself in the world and my actions and my abilities and really think about what I'm doing in that moment.
And also, so many of the religions say the same basic stuff.
Right, which I think is another reason why it's kind of on the downfall, because it's like the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal. Those are all pretty basic things I think that most people know.
And it's just basic moral humanity.
Yeah, you can ask a 5-year-old, hey, is killing wrong? And that 5-year-old will probably go into an extensive thing about
well, it depends what they did. But yes.
I think, yeah. That would basically be what happens. And it's one of those things to where, the basic morals that religion teach are just that, basic morals. And if anything, the whole moral spectrum is gray, blah, blah, blah. But, again, I understand why people need to have faith in something. But also, whenever you're trying to teach, quote, morals that are pretty much well known, I don't see any reason to keep teaching that.
Well, I guess preservation.
Okay, yeah, just preservation of said religion.
Shit doesn't get stagnant.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
But also saying the same old thing over and over again does get tiring.
Right, and I can take it back to like saying the same old thing over and over again can get tiring.
Also, I think it's important to allow religion to evolve as well, and that's why I really go for the idea of like cherry picking, absorbing as much from different religions as you can, and taking the aspects from those that make sense to you,
right?
And like they make a connection. And bringing those into your own personal philosophy. See, my problem with organized religion is that it really inhibits people to think on their own. And people don't really know how to ask the questions that they need the answers to, and
they don't know how to think critically.
Yeah, and they don't go out and find those answers for themselves. And that's my main problem with it.
I mean, that makes sense. And I mean, going back to...
Which is why a lot of people turn towards science.
Right, and you know, going back to what you were saying earlier about saying the same things over and over, I feel like that has something to do with it. You know, is this idea of like, so for example, the best way I can do this is like with Catholicism before Martin Luther nailed the 95 Theses to the door and everything. It was, you went to the preacher, you confessed your sins, you said some Hail Marys, and the preacher made everything okay, right? And that was kind of the first way of saying, you don't have this personal connection to the Almighty. I do. You have to come to me. And then Martin Luther came along and was like, actually, no, I think that...
limiting, man.
Right. And it's one of those things to whenever Martin Luther came along and was like, hey, no, we can actually pray to God ourselves. We don't need this old preacher sitting in this booth listening to our sins. God can hear them directly.
Also, the idea that only like a select few can talk to God is just hokum. Like, literally everybody. The human brain was made to converse with higher ideas.
Right. And it's one of those things to where, like you were saying, that religion should go through stages of evolution and evolve, and that was kind of one of them right there. And taking it even further back, you know, you have the Old Testament, which is what Judaism is and what Jewish people worship and follow. And then you have the New Testament, which is like Christianity. That was already, or Catholicism really, which is like, that's the, you know, that's another part of the evolution. And then the next side is Martin Luther. And then I think that this next evolution of organized religion is going to not necessarily be the downfall. Again, I think that organized religion will be something that's kind of engraved in our psyche, culture, and society. But at the same time, I think it's on a downfall because there are more people coming out and questioning the things that organized religion has said. Organized religion still doesn't have an answer.
Well, also,
we're just kind of like whatever.
The negative side of organized religion too, because there's still wars going on between like Iraq and Pakistan, I think, over their different religions, which is bizarre because it's been going on for like 500 years. Maybe I should fact check that. But like, I mean, I'm no like religious historian, but like Christianity's killed its fair share of individuals as well.
Oh, of course it has. Well, because that's the thing is that, again, we can take it back to using religion as a weapon. It was one of those things to where that was one of the big scares with terrorism after 9/11. It was that they think that we are, you know, evil because of the way that we worship God. And then the media and subsequently everybody around us made it seem like they were evil for the way that they worshiped God. And it's one of those things. There's also, you know, you and I listen to a lot of the same artists, and Idea has a line of saying, you know, my God could kill yours in one of his songs, to where that's basically just the statement of that's all that these wars have ever been about, is my God is stronger than
my
yours.
dad could beat up your dad.
Exactly, it's one of those.
I don't know, I think people just fail to realize that it's all the same God. Which is such a simple concept. Like, regardless of what, like, everybody could be wrong.
Right.
But everybody could be right, too. Like, it doesn't matter what you believe. It
Right,
doesn't matter if you believe.
It's that same idea of climate change. Even if we are wrong about climate change, what do we lose? A nice, greener Earth? more breathable air. Oh boy, so we were wrong about something, but we gained something out of it. Does it matter? To end the whole thing on organized religion, and kind of move into your talking point, what do you personally believe for religion?
Oh man. I do believe in God.
But not in the way that like Christians believe in God.
Yeah, I don't believe in any pre-established higher being. In fact, I think that there are several higher beings, and that the ones immediately next to us,
Right.
that are outside the fourth dimension, are us as well, which I'll actually go into when we talk about the
you're talking
collective.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
But I think that we are God, and I think that we are physical manifestations of souls put here to learn and to teach.
Interesting.
And I think that we are here, and I think that we are reborn here for as long as it takes.
To learn everything? Or just...
I think there's a specific thing to learn in the way of unity. But that also sounds really kind of cheesy.
But also, so what does that mean for the sense of the individual? Are you saying every person is kind of the same person, or each individual is trying to learn their one thing?
Not that everybody is the same person, but that everybody understands each other. I think that's
Interesting.
the point.
Interesting.
But I'll ask you, what do you believe?
No, not much. I'm just kidding. Personally, I believe that the universe itself is the divine being, rather than there being some kind of physical thing that you go to upon death and you see. I believe that the universe itself is kind of the divine being. And my reason for that is, there are the old stupid Facebook posts of like, you can see a galaxy somewhere and it looks the same way as the iris of an eye. Right? And it's kind of those things to where the universe, we are made of the universe, and the universe is made from us.
Like the neuron to the brain chip.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things to where I personally believe that the universe has in store for the individual whatever that individual wants and whatever that individual so desires. But at the same time, it's not just going to give it to you. You have to kind of make the universe give it to you yourself.
I think it's also very interesting to find, like you said, the kind of recurring patterns in it too.
Right.
Because, I talk a lot about the shape of spirals.
Right.
And how influential that is on everything.
Right.
But that's just because everything...
Right. Is constantly changing and constantly moving. The only defined thing in life, the ever not changing thing in life is change. Like everything is always constantly going to go through some kind of metamorphosis, some kind of change, whether it be the changing of its shape and matter.
Or the next episode of this podcast.
Yeah, right? Right. This is our first episode and we've already gone into organized religion
and metaphysics.
Which we are not qualified in
not at
any
all.
way.
But
I want to reiterate that to anybody watching or listening. Like, we are not qualified
we are the layman's
in any
qualified.
shape and form. If anything, we're just goofy
We're
art
just two
students
people
that had an idea.
trying to figure it out.
Yeah, that's a good point. We're just two weirdos trying to figure it out. So let's go into your talking point, which was the collective consciousness, you called it?
Yes, the collective unconscious.
The collective unconscious. Okay.
Also, what I think I could consider to be the subconscious.
Okay, interesting.
What do you think of the subconscious?
Well, I know it fucks me over in my dreams sometimes. I know that much. Personally, I'm going to go ahead and say I'm not that much about I don't know that much about the subconscious. I know that it's kind of the part of you that is active when you sleep. It's kind of, again, where your dreams occur, those kinds of things. Other than that, I don't know much about how it works.
So, this is all, of course, speculation.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that the subconscious mind is the way through which our fourth dimensional souls communicate with us.
Oh damn! So we're gonna get really spiritual with it. Okay, fuck.
Yeah.
Okay, fuck. So what do you mean? For me, and I guess the audience as well, what is a fourth dimensional soul?
So the fourth dimension is time. So a fourth dimensional being would be a being that can exist outside of time.
Okay.
And so given that, I don't think it could be anything physical. Because anything physical
Right,
that exists
right.
in this world ages. And it is created and it is destroyed.
And eventually decays, right?
Which cannot exist outside of time.
Right.
However, energy
Right.
may not have that same property.
Right.
So if there were to exist something outside of time, I think it would have to be the human soul. Or the soul of the world.
And so you're saying the subconscious is the connection between that metaphysical fourth dimensional soul being and us.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. And what happens on this bridge, so to speak? Is that like dreams and things like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
When you go to sleep at night, and it's interesting because I feel like the other night I was going to sleep, and you know how you can see colors?
Yeah.
Like when you close your eyes and shit, they like move around and stuff.
Right, from all the light that you've taken in throughout the day and stuff. Yeah.
I was going to sleep. I was at my dad's house,
Mm-hmm.
and I was falling asleep. I was watching the colors and just kind of like drifting mentally.
Right.
And then the colors all made a face, and it jumped out at me and shouted at me, and it made me jolt my eyes back open. And I think that when we fall asleep, that's the subconscious slowly taking over our brain, and that when those colors and stuff manifest themselves into our dreams.
Interesting.
But yeah, the subconscious mind. I think the human brain is the most complex creation in the universe.
Oh, I agree. I 100% agree with that statement. Because it's one of those things to where it is, the human brain has adapted and evolved to all sorts of circumstances over. Yeah, I know, right? When the wind blows, it's actually a little bit cold. But the human brain has evolved and adapted through so many different circumstances and time periods and problems. Like even this pandemic alone, right? We've kind of seen
what effects it can have on people.
Yeah, what effects it can have on people. I hate to put it like this, but who the people that can just simply forgo a way of life and say, all right, this is fine as long as it's for the common good and for the better. And then you have the really ignorant people that scream that they don't want to wear a mask because it's about their freedom, right? And we've seen what this pandemic can do to the human mind based upon constraints, issues placed upon it such as isolation, not being able to do anything really. And even so, this podcast, I could say, is a result of my
being
own
stuck inside.
Yeah, my own isolation and my own brain evolving to where I used to have so many ideas about starting like a YouTube channel with my friends and doing skits and ideas, but we never actually did. You know, I had these
in school, man.
exactly, and it's one of those things to where like we had so many ideas that we wanted to do and wanted to get out there, but we never did because we had all the time and we had all the time in the world. It didn't matter. We didn't have a pandemic stressing us and pulling us down, so we could do this whenever we wanted. But like, I believe now this pandemic has shown people that like going outside, we shouldn't take that for granted. You know, hanging out with the people that make us feel good, we shouldn't take that for granted.
Scientists who have spent years and years mastering their field and know what they're talking about, we shouldn't take for granted.
Yeah, for real. We really should. But so, what does it mean for the collective part of this collective unconscious? What is it? How is it collecting, and what is it collecting?
So there's a tree that is considered to be the largest organism on the planet.
Right.
I forget where it is, but it's essentially this one tree whose roots are so big that they've spawned other
trees.
identical trees. That's all connected off of this one root system. So that all of these trees, when it becomes wintertime, they all change at the same time. They all lose their leaves at the same time.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
The collective, I think, is a lot like that. Like how these grass have root systems.
Right.
The grass is cut, it notifies other grasses that, hey, there's danger.
Right.
I think that the subconscious of every person is linked. And I think that the collective unconscious is the unity that exists outside of time.
Okay. So you said that there is this like one specific thing that the collective unconscious is trying to learn. Teach. Okay. And what happens when it has taught that? Is that what could be perceived to like other religions as like Armageddon?
I just the opposite, actually. I think that
Utopia.
Yeah, I think
Nice.
that once everybody figures out how to understand each other, that
Okay.
will be, in a sense, an evolution of humanity.
Okay.
I like the idea that up to this point, evolution has been earned because we've been able to survive so long and adapt.
Right.
That we have become the foremost creature on this planet.
We are top of the food chain, yeah.
But with that comes a responsibility.
Right. Because having become top of the food chain, we now go and try to hunt more extravagant beasts, thus killing off a lot of wildlife that was indigenous to this planet, and so on and so forth.
And the planet itself, and even our own people on it.
Right.
Which,
fuck.
Yeah. It's a hard task to quantify, but
right. But it's something that people should kind of be opened up to and kind of think about. That's
exactly.
That's interesting. I like
that. That's my whole idea of the collective.
I like that. That's pretty cool. But from me and Graham, I believe that's about it. Unless you had anything else you wanted to say, anything else you wanted to add in.
I don't think so. Go get your shots, and
yeah, I'm doing that next week.
Yeah, and hug your grandmas.
After getting the shots, though. Or at least wear a mask.
Yeah.
Or maybe be in like a bubble or something.
That would be kind of fun.
Well, then again, I believe by this point, most grandmothers have gotten the shots. Maybe not the second dose, though.
That's true, actually.
Maybe not the second dose, though. I don't know.
I don't know when that happened. I'm not an old person.
Not an old person. And thank God for that. But yeah, this has been the first episode of the Talking Heads podcast.
Hope you guys enjoyed it.
Next week, Graham and I will get together and bring some more topics to the table.
Yeah.
and try to make them a little more lighthearted, I guess.
Yeah.
a little less extensive thought,
Yeah,
more
we
a
kind of
little
hit
jokey.
some hard topics on this one. But anyways, if you guys have, where's this going up?
We will figure that out here soon.
If the platform has a way that you can leave comments, do so, and we'll get into that shit.
If it's
man.
going to be on a wavelength, you'll find it eventually, I'm sure.
You can just send them to us telepathically, and
Or through the subconscious.
Or through the subconscious. Tell us in our dreams, and we will change the show to your liking.
Some random person enters my dream tonight and is just like, "Hey, I like the
your
show."
podcast. It's like, oh, thanks, stranger. How did you get into my head?
Oh god. All right.
Hey,
Bye, guys.
Hey, 22 minutes. That's not bad.
Yeah, that's not bad for a first episode.